our listeners, having you on air, and we're all out on Facebook as well for the listeners who want to tune in. So, Stada, as I said, I know you love Cape Town. We had that discussion the last time. You told us how much you love being here. But what was the turnout last time? We spoke to you before you was in last place, and this year you're back again, and this time you're back again. Tell us what was the outcome like, and why did you come back to Cape Town?
Well, first of all, I came back to Cape Town because I love South Africa. Alhamdulillah, I love South African people. And I really, really believe this is a very generous, very open-hearted culture. And I love coming back here. It reminds me a lot of my own Egyptian culture that kind of we grew up with, even in America. But alhamdulillah, last year was very successful, and the turnout was very good. And alhamdulillah, this is actually the last leg of the South Africa tour. And alhamdulillah, we had seminars in Johannesburg, in Durban, and Victoria. That went very well.
Alhamdulillah. So, of course, we always, speak to women who are your fans, who love listening to the advice that you share with them. And we ourselves, we follow you all the time. Mainly because we go through similar circumstances and situations that you go through. And you share that with all of our listeners out there. This time around, when people do a thing, what can they expect to take away from it, from your workshop?
So what I tried to do this year is really take these concepts that so many people share in terms of really life experiences that are very shared, as you mentioned, as human beings living in this imperfect world called dunya, and in specific women and the struggles that we go through, uh, with, for example, all the different roles that we need to juggle. Are many of us mothers, as well as having partners and wives, and of course, most importantly, we are the slaves of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. So how do we, juggle all of those roles? Um, so that's one of the themes that I'll talk about. How can we deal with hardships, and how can we start to find joy even in our storms? That's a very important theme that I'll also be discussing, as well as just breaking out of the shackles that keep us suffering.
So we do also, that is to this discussion and also the show altogether, we do take for a break now and we can continue discussing what exactly will be contained in this the rest of the show. But we can also continue for the last few minutes before that break, inshallah, and speak about the themes that just unpacking on. I interviewed both last week and in this week as well, and it's focused on practicality when you have these discussions and what you have with the really practical and practical. And sometimes people often miss how to actually implement these things into your life. When listening to this twice, putting it into practice, it's a different story. So when it comes to that, what I found you have through the seminars you've been conducting and also the books that you involved.
So one of the things I try to do whenever I go to is I try really to talk to people and interact with the community and find out what they're dealing with in life, what's happening on the ground, what are some of the community struggles, what are some of people's personal struggles. And I try to touch upon those things because one problem I find it, I, in a lot of maybe our teachings throughout the world when it comes to Islam is that so much of it is conceptual and ideas. And maybe a lot of these concepts are not, as you said, practical and not related to our everyday life. So we might learn about Tawheed, for example, learn that there's only one God. We all know that, a 3-year-old can say that ilaha illallah, but how does that actually translate when I'm getting divorced? Or how does that translate when I've just gotten a diagnosis of, of, of stage 4 cancer? Or how do these concepts translate to our everyday struggles? That's really my focus.
And speaking about the people struggles, as you know, you've been in Cape Town for the past few days now and experiencing also the ongoing the ongoing issues that exist within a certain community, and sometimes it can be similar but also very different to others. So going to different places, meeting with people from different cultures, how do you kind of connect all of those things together, speaking to people from different communities?
So I think it's very important to be aware of your audience. Um, the Prophet ﷺ taught us that he was very aware of who he was speaking to. So if one person asked him, give me advice, he would give different advice than if a different person asked him to give him advice. So sometimes in the hadith, we'll hear him say things like, do not get angry. And he was speaking to a specific person, perhaps, who had an issue with anger. Or he would talk about uh, other advice about tying the camel, right, and keeping your trust in Allah, because this person he was speaking to was relying on Allah but wasn't taking risks. So it's very important. This is a lesson that we learn from this sunnah and from the Prophet ﷺ. It's very important to know your audience. That's also one of the reasons why I ask the audience themselves to set an intention and make a dua, because every single person who's attending has their own individual struggles and individual questions and individual personalities that I know nothing about, because many of these people I've never actually gotten the opportunity to meet. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. And so that's why I ask people to basically ask Allah to allow me to just be a tool to help in any small way. Right? So that's very important. But I really think that uh, translating these concepts into everyday life is just so important, because we have this priceless guidance from God and His Messenger, but many of us don't really realize how they translate. And you were saying about differences, I was just thinking now. So I've had the opportunity to go to Durban, Johannesburg, and now Cape Town, and I do see differences, even though I don't, obviously I don't live here, but even in my own travels, I do see differences, and I think it's fascinating. I'm not going to try to I'm not going to try to generalize or summarize the differences, but I will say this in general. Um, there are some communities and basically some we I'll put it this way. I'll put it this way. We all struggle with different types of attachments. I'll put it like that, right? So there are some people, their struggle in terms of attachments has to do with like material things, like fancy cars, right? Really showing off in that way. But other people, their type of attachment to dunya might not be the type of car they drive, but maybe it's more about status or about positions of power, or basically feeling as though they need to have a certain level of influence. So really, our attachments differ, but at the end of the day, all of these things are dunya, and so we all have struggles. They're just different ones.
And ending up on that,
Yeah, yes. But it's not sorry, pertaining. I do have a question, but it's not pertaining to Muslim or not. I think this change. Yeah, it's yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I was not moving, but I
no,
was
but I think it does. But that's what
Yes.
does.
I don't think it's mine. I don't think it's mine because I was literally like, I know the chair. It was not mine. Okay. It was like constant. I was like, I'm not moving. I know it's not mine. It's like those old chairs in haunted house. Anyway, what were you saying?
I was saying that I think but it's not related to the same amount. It's basically just with regards to what is the purpose of difficulty that others like, and is how can we come out on the other side stronger than what we've faced in the
I think that is a very relevant question.
Yeah.
Ask her.
yeah.
Keeping your back.
No,
The company. It's still live. Yeah.
think the sound is not that clear.
Okay. Sounds just clear.
I might just do this one. I can end it.